On a freezing winter night when the wind cut through the plains like a knife, and the moon hung low, like a pale lantern over the empty west, a lonely cowboy named Colt Mercer rode across the Badlands searching only for a quiet campsite and a little warmth to chase away the biting cold. He'd spent years drifting from ranch to ranch, dragging behind him a heart scarred by battles, betrayals, and the kind of loneliness that only an endless prairie could understand. But fate had a strange way of choosing moments, and that night, it waited for him in the faint cry of something human carried by the wind. At first Colt thought it was a trick of his wary mind, but the second cry was sharper, desperate, and young. He jumped from his horse, lantern in hand, pushing through a maze of wind, bent sage until he stumbled upon a sight that froze him harder than the winter itself. Two native twin sisters, no older than 18, huddled together beneath a fallen tree, wrapped in nothing but torn hides, shivering violently as snow clung to their hair. One of them could barely lift her head, and the other shielded her with the last of her strength. Colt felt his chest tighten. He knew the land, he knew the tribes, and he knew what winter could do. In another hour these girls would be gone forever, without hesitation, without even knowing who might be chasing them or why. They were lifted into his arms one after another, and carried to his horse as he whispered, "Don't give up now. You hear me? Not tonight." He rode fast, holding them tight, praying they didn't slip away before he found shelter. Colt reached an abandoned hunting cabin he'd passed earlier that day, half buried in snow, its roof sagging but still strong enough to hold life inside. He rushed them in, wrapped them in blankets, lit a fire, and warmed water in a tin pot. As heat filled the cabin and the girls' trembling bodies slowly eased, Colt finally saw their faces clearly. Identical, beautiful, with long dark braids and features marked with exhaustion and fear. When the stronger twin finally opened her eyes, she whispered her name, Ayanna, and pointed to her sister Kiona. Their tribe had been attacked, scattered in the chaos, and the twins had run for hours before collapsing. Colt listened quietly, anger burning under his calm exterior. He'd seen too many innocent lives torn by greed and revenge. But even deeper than anger was a sudden, overwhelming instinct to protect them, stronger than anything he had felt in years. Over the next days, Colt hunted for food, carried firewood through blizzards, and watched over the girls through their fevers. In return they treated him with gratitude, trust, and a gentle presence that softened years of hardened silence in his soul. The cabin slowly turned from a cold shelter into something warm, almost like a home Colt didn't know he could still feel. And as the storms outside grew stronger, the bond between the cowboy and the twins grew unbreakable. But fate wasn't finished with him, not even close. Because while Colt sheltered them, a group of ruthless riders hunted the plains, searching for the missing twins, and they were getting closer every single day. If you're enjoying this powerful Western tale, make sure to subscribe to the channel. More gripping stories like this one are on the way, and you won't want to miss what happens next. Days later, the storm finally broke, leaving behind a silent white world. The twins were healthy again, moving gently around the cabin and preparing food while Colt checked his saddle and gear. Ayanna approached him, her eyes deep with worry, and warned that the men who attacked their tribe would not stop until they found the twins. Because those same outlaws had stolen sacred tribal treasures, and the sisters were the last witnesses who could identify the thieves. Colt understood immediately that keeping them in the cabin meant putting all of them in danger. He made the decision to move at dawn toward the mountain pass, where surviving members of the twins' tribe might be hiding. But just as the first light of morning touched the snow, the distant rumble of hooves shattered the calm. Colt's instincts kicked in. He pushed the twins behind a rock outcropping near the cabin and grabbed his rifle. A group of 6 men rode up, armed, loud and confident. Their leader stepped forward, smirk twisted under his black hat, and called out, "We know you've got what doesn't belong to you. Hand over the girls, Cowboy, and you walk away." Colt didn't answer. He had taken bullets before, but never for something that mattered, until now. The battle erupted instantly. Gunfire cracked through the trees as Colt rolled for cover, firing back with deadly accuracy. 2 riders fell before they even realized the cowboy wasn't bluffing. But there were too many circling, pressing in, determined to end things quickly. Ayanna and Kiona watched in terror as Colt fought like a man possessed, refusing to let the world take anything more from him, even if it meant giving up his own life. Just when the outlaws cornered him behind the cabin, the ground began to tremble with the thunder of more hooves, this time coming from the ridge above. Dozens of warriors on horseback appeared, led by the tribe's surviving elders, who had followed the twins' tracks and arrived just in time. Their arrows and rifles rained down from the ridge, scattering the outlaws in seconds. The survivors fled in terror, leaving behind their fallen and their ambitions. When the dust settled, Colt stood exhausted, bruised and breathing heavy, unsure whether he should expect thanks or suspicion. But the elders approached him with deep respect, bowing their heads for safeguarding the tribe's daughters. Ayanna and Kiona ran to Colt and hugged him with tears in their eyes, because in the short time they knew him, he had become more than a savior. He had become family. The tribe invited Colt to stay with them as an honored protector, and for the first time in his wandering life, he felt the weight of loneliness lift from his shoulders. Ayanna told him, "The spirits guide those who guide others," and Kiona added softly, "Your fate changed the night you found us." And it was true. Colt had once been just a drifting cowboy, but saving those twin sisters had given him a purpose far larger than himself. His life, his destiny, and his heart had been rewritten forever by a single night of courage and compassion.